We are going to get started with mindfulness, and I'm going to prompt you to pull out your phone. And I'd like you to look through your camera roll and choose any photo on your camera roll. It can be random, it can be a recent photo, it can be from a few years back. If you have a lot of photos on your phone, just choose one random photo. And what I'm going to have you do is mindfully just observe that photo for about 1 to 2 minutes. Notice what thoughts you have when you look at the photo. How do you feel in your body when you look at this photo? What emotions come up for you? And do you have any urges when you're looking at that photo? Or just to smile, laugh, cry, whatever it might be. So take a few moments to just notice and observe that photo. For more time, which I encourage, please pause this video so you can take some time to really reflect. But want you to think now, coming back to this space, what emotions came up? What were you noticing in your body? What thoughts came as you observed this photo or memory from your past? If it feels good for you, you can feel free to write them down or just, again, quietly reflect. So that was our quick mindfulness today. We are going to go ahead and do a quick review of last week's skill, and then we're going to go into our skills for today. So I'm going to share my screen to do a quick review. Okay, so we covered two main skills last week, which were willingness and willfulness. Willingness is, and we're still in our distress tolerance module, I should say that. These are our radical acceptance skills. So willingness and willfulness. Willingness is this idea of allowing yourself to be ready for the possibilities of life. Willfulness holds you back from living the life you want. So this idea of willingness is this idea of embracing things that might be challenging. It's working towards acceptance. It's being open to the idea of accepting something that is really difficult. Where willfulness is the opposite, right? It's us maybe resisting acceptance or resisting the things we might need to do to work towards acceptance. It's this idea of digging our heels in. So for more kind of an in-depth explanation, please revisit the video from last time. And then the other skill we learned last week was ways of how we can work towards acceptance with our bodies. And we practice half smiling and willing hands. Half smiling is this idea of kind of turning the corners of our mouth slightly up, not a full grin or full-blown smile, but just a really subtle smile. It's this idea of being able to soften our face, relax our muscles a little bit, and feel a little bit more like calm in our face, which is meant to help send the message to our brain that we're working towards acceptance. The other area is willing hands, which is turning the palms of our hands up, whether we're laying or sitting or standing, just having our palms facing out and upward. Again, is this idea that we're trying to be open with our body posture, being open to this idea of acceptance. And again, that mind-body connection is firing off here to really communicate. Our body's communicating with our mind to help us work towards acceptance. Okay, so take a moment to reflect. How was it this past week with practicing these skills? Were there any barriers that came up? What did you notice? How did you feel after practicing these skills? This is a great moment to write down any further questions that you might have about these skills, or any sort of stuck points you might have faced while you were practicing, and bringing them into your individual therapy session or into your next group session, because your group leaders are there to help troubleshoot and better help you understand the skill if things still feel confusing. All right. So we are going to move on. And today we're going to do a mindfulness review, as well as we're going to talk about mindfulness of current thoughts. Our mindfulness review is going to be about the 3 states of mind. There is a more in-depth video about the 3 states of mind, just one of our first videos. So if that is an area that you're like, I need a little bit more support in, you can revisit one of those videos. But I am going to do a quick review here about what the 3 states of mind are. So essentially, the 3 states of mind are different mindsets that we all experience as humans. I'm sure there's some examples that we can come up with that we're ebbing and flowing in between different states of mind. The idea, though, is to try and find a wise mind, which is the balance of both minds. But we'll start with rational mind. You might also hear folks say reason mind. They mean the same thing, they're interchangeable. When we are in reason mind, we are really fueled by logic. Fact. It really helps us focus on facts in the moment. We feel really focused. It's task oriented. We think really logically when we're in this state of mind where we might not really notice our emotions. We're just really dialed in and focused on what it is that we're doing. So some examples can be like when you're taking a test, when you're creating to-do lists, maybe following directions or following a recipe, maybe completing a puzzle. When we're in reason mind, we're just bringing in all of the information that, might be info gathering. Trying to think of some other examples here could be if you're paying a bill, working on budgeting, planning out, using a planner to fill out and plan out things that you have to do. If you are in this stage of life where you're considering like a college, for instance, you might be in reason mind when you're looking up, does the college have your major? How far is the college? Like what distance wise from your home base? You might be looking up the tuition, how much it costs, or more about financial aid information. Those are all examples of when you might be in reason mind. Reason mind is important because those facts and information is important to have, right? I think sometimes where we can get stuck in reason mind is when we are maybe ignoring our emotions and not acknowledging how we might feel about a situation. Okay, the opposite of reason or rational mind is emotional mind. This is, again, the opposite. So reason and logic are out the window. We might not be able to receive information because we're really fueled by our emotions in this state. So we're fueled by emotions. We might be really escalated, feeling intense emotions. We might be a little bit more reactive in this state of mind or impulsive, where we're really acting on our emotions and we're not really thinking clearly or thinking things through. When we're in emotion mind, a lot of times we might consider ourselves like hot, fueled again with those emotions. Excuse me. But it's not to say that, again, emotion mind is bad, because we can also, when we're in emotion mind, we might be feeling a lot more like creative. We might be feeling really like in love, where we're like infatuated, and that feels good, right? When we're in those kind of states of mind or that kind of headspace. However, those kind of states of mind can still cloud our judgment, right? They can still cloud and interfere with us being able to bring in the reason. So the middle path here, the third state of mind, is our wise mind, which is this middle path that we see in the Venn diagram. Wise mind is taking important components from both sides. It's intuitive thinking. It's being really mindful. It's finding the balance between reason and emotion mind. So it's important that we are able to hear and see and understand the logic and facts while also acknowledging how we feel in the moment. So if I'm going to use that college example, when I was saying about the rational mind of getting all the facts about the college, the other important part too is acknowledging the emotional piece. Like, how do we feel when we're walking on the campus? Do we feel like it's a place where we belong, that we're accepted, that we feel comfortable, safe? Those are all going to be important information when we're making a really big and important decision. So both are really important, right? We need to know if the college has our major, if we can afford it. And we also want to feel good about the college campus, what emotions we feel when we think about the college or when we're visiting. Those are going to be like the important parts of marinating both sides here to find that wise mind decision. Okay. So that was our review on the 3 states of mind. Again, if you need to take it a little bit further and want to revisit a former video, I go into this a little bit more in one of the first videos. Okay. Last thing here that we'll do with this is that I would encourage you to reflect on how you've used Wise Mind recently and just journal about an experience. So if you have a writing utensil and some sort of paper, journal, post-it note, go ahead and jot down a recent experience where you used Wise Mind and how did it feel? And go ahead and pause this video so you can have some time to do that. All right. So just checking in, how did it feel to reflect on a Wise Mind experience? What did you notice? Were you able to use any skills? Sometimes we have to use some of our other skills to be able to access our Wise Mind. So curious if in order for you to access it, you use some other DBT skills that you've learned. Awesome. I definitely want to empower you to share this experience with a person in your life, whether it's a family member, a friend, your therapist, group members. All right. So we are going to move on to our last part, our last skill for today, which is mindfulness of current thoughts. So again, we're tapping into our mindfulness skills here, but today we're specifically focusing on just being more mindful of the thoughts that enter and leave our brain. The idea behind this is that it's the art of allowing thoughts to come and go as if your thoughts were on a conveyor belt. So the idea of being mindful of our thoughts is really working on allowing our thoughts in, so not suppressing them, and then working on letting them go, not ruminating on them, holding on to them, clinging to them. Because that's a lot of times where we can get stuck in emotion mind, is when we are having a hard time either letting thoughts in or letting them pass. All right. So, what are some things that are important to know about this skill? We want to work on observing our thoughts. So, this is allowing them in, right? Noticing them, being aware of them. So, stepping back and noticing your thoughts coming and going. Allowing the thoughts in, but not blocking or suppressing them. And this is really important. I think a good thing as a good reminder, and I know it says this at the bottom, that your thoughts are not facts. So even if your thoughts are uncomfortable, it's important to let them in. It doesn't define who you are as a person. Again, they're not facts. Thoughts are just thoughts. So allowing them in and then working on letting them pass. The more that we try and block or suppress our thoughts, we actually just get into this power struggle or fight within ourselves. And the more that you keep pushing down, they're gonna keep coming up. Or you might be able to temporarily push it down, but then later it might resurface. So by just allowing it in, we can work on just like detaching from it, right? This isn't who I am. This is just a thought. And then I'm gonna let it pass. Then we want to work on not analyzing or judging our thoughts, because again, we're human, we have thoughts, and it's okay. So, one thing I always like to remind people is that every person, every human is going to at times have uncomfortable or distressing, maybe some intrusive thoughts. If anyone in this world tells you that they've never had those, they're most likely lying. And I say that because again, we have thousands and thousands of thoughts a day. And sometimes they're going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes they're going to make us feel a little unsettled. It's how we react to those thoughts. Can we work on detaching from them, acknowledging, oh, that's an uncomfortable thought, and are we able to move on? As opposed to letting it totally derail us or lead us down a spiraling experience. The next part is adopt a curious mind. Getting curious about our thoughts as opposed to judging them. Allowing yourself to simply wonder about the meaning of your thoughts without analyzing. Right? So can we get curious about our thoughts, wondering, oh, I wonder where that came from, and being able to also acknowledge we might not know where it came from. And that's okay too. So we don't always have to have an answer or a why to why we're having a thought. Sometimes it can be helpful for us to just, again, adapt that curious mind, get curious about it, wonder about it, and then work on allowing it to pass. Then avoid or suppress blocking thoughts, like I mentioned. Notice what sensations your thoughts are trying to avoid. So maybe you're trying to block thoughts out because it makes you feel a certain way in your body. So can we just allow that sensation in? Can we hold space for it, make room for it, acknowledge that it won't last forever? And then can we also try loving our thoughts? I know this might sound a little strange, right? Like, why would I love an uncomfortable thought? But more so this perspective of, can we appreciate our minds? Can we appreciate all the things that our brains and our minds do for us? Having thoughts is one of those superpowers that our brains can do. And they help make up your brilliant mind, right? Our brain does so much work for our body, and thoughts are just one component of that. So can we work on just appreciating and loving that we get to have thoughts, that we get to be curious beings, and work on trying to show, like, acknowledge that appreciation for that. And then again, I'll say it again, our thoughts are not facts. They don't define us. We're humans and we all have thoughts, whether sometimes they feel more comfortable than other times. All right. So here's how we can practice being more mindful of our thoughts. Notice and label our thoughts as they come. An example of this is, I'm having the thought that, fill in the blank, right? Or, oh, I'm having a pretty uncomfortable thought right now. Or I'm having the thought that, I'm trying to think of examples. I'm having the thought that this feels really good right now. The next one is do a body scan to notice a body sensation. Then notice what thought you have about that sensation. Go back and forth to notice the thoughts you may be attaching to your body. So again, just noticing that mind-body connection, what thoughts we have when we have a body sensation, and vice versa. Another way to practice this is playing with your thoughts. This is a great way to work on just allowing them in and then working on letting them go. Again, if we're having like a distressing thought, creating some distance between them. So you can say them out loud, maybe repeat them over and over again in a funny voice. Maybe you sing them. You can get creative, like you get really creative here on ways to detach from thoughts when you're having trouble letting go. So this is a great one if you do struggle with like rumination, is trying to play with your thoughts. Maybe you sing your thoughts in the happy birthday tune or Old MacDonald, getting into a funny like nursery rhyme or song. Maybe you channel in your favorite Disney character or your favorite Avatar character, and you channel in their voice and you say that thought over and over again until it feels really small. Another way to practice this is using like guided imagery or visual image. A really common one is leaves on a stream. So envision placing a thought on a leaf and watching it flow down a stream. There's lots of YouTube videos. If you just type in leaves on a stream, so many different things will pop up. Or if you use a mindfulness app as well, there's most likely a leaves on a stream sort of exercise. If that metaphor or visual doesn't really land with you, There's other visual like techniques you can use, like putting your thought on a cloud and watching it float away, putting your thought on a conveyor belt and letting it pass. So there's lots of different things you could do with your thought as like a crashing wave. So you can use whatever really lands and sticks with you. Some examples here. Imagine yourself laying on the grass, looking up at the bright sky. Place your thoughts on a cloud and watch the cloud float by. Take your time with placing each new thought on a separate cloud while watching it gently glide by. So I want you to pause this video and practice this for a few moments. Okay, now that you're back, what was that like? What did you notice? What did you observe? What came up for you? And are there any other metaphors you can use for watching your thoughts go by? I know I already gave some examples, but are there other ones that you can think of? 'Cause I'm sure there are tons of other metaphors you can use. All right, let's do a quick story time to help illustrate this a little bit. Remy, who uses he, him pronouns, has been struggling with intrusive thoughts. Remy hardly ever talks about them because he feels embarrassed. Instead of talking about them, Remy has worked on noticing them by writing them down and then letting them go by ripping up the paper or shredding it. This has been a helpful visual way for Remy to practice letting go of thoughts as opposed to stuffing them. So another great technique, writing them down and then doing something with them or not doing anything with them. Maybe you just close your journal and that's that, and you're able to let them go. Or like Remy in this story, shreds them, rips them. Another great way to do if you are into like nature, maybe you write them down on like your intrusive thoughts on a rock or a stone, throw them into a creek or a river, a lake. Those are really great ways to have a release of letting go of some things that you might be holding on to. All right, let's practice. Here are some ways that you can practice at home. So you can practice by yourself by choosing one visualization of mindfulness of thoughts. Practice it and record your observations. So we just went over some ways that you can visualize this. Pick a way and then write down how it goes. You can do this with a peer by share this visualization with a friend. See if they have any other ideas on ways to visualize your thoughts passing by. And maybe you share ideas together. And then with a parent or caregiver, you can talk to your parent about ways you can practice letting go of thoughts. Ask how they let go of thoughts and brainstorm ideas together. Maybe your parents have some other ideas, which could be cool to hear their perspective and things that they do to let go of thoughts. Okay. And then you're just writing it down. How did it go when you practice this either with yourself, a peer, or a caregiver this week? Was it effective? What did you notice? What was different when practicing mindfulness of current thoughts? And then just noting the emotions you felt before and after and the intensity. Okay, so that is home practice this week. Take some time to really practice, write down your thoughts, and then come prepared for your next group and sharing how it went and if you have any questions. All right, for tuning in. Have a good rest of your day.